Hey everyone, welcome back to Linux Network. If you're new here, this is the place where we break down Linux stuff in plain English. No jargon, no assuming you already know what a kernel is, none of that. If you've ever felt lost reading a distro's changelog, you're in the right spot. And today we've actually got a really good one to talk about, because Deepin, you know, that gorgeous super polished Linux distro that always looks like it belongs in a sci-fi movie, just dropped a new update. We're talking about Deepin 25.2.0, and honestly this isn't some tiny bug fix release. There is a lot packed into this one, so let's get right into it. So before we dive into the list of changes, let's quickly talk about the why. The Deepin team says this update is all about two things: making the day-to-day experience smoother and making the whole system more stable. Meaning they want Deepin to feel nicer to use, and they want it to crash less, freeze less, and just behave better overall. They focused on a few specific areas to do that. Something called Treeland, which we'll explain in a second, plus file management, so basically how you find and organize your files, and something called DDE, which is Deepin's desktop environment. If none of those words mean anything to you, don't worry, that's literally what this video is for. Let's go through them one by one. Okay, first up, Treeland. Now, if you're new to Deepin, Treeland is basically the newer engine that runs the desktop. Think of it like the stage that everything else performs on. It handles things like how windows are drawn, how your screen refreshes, how smooth animations look. It's built on newer technology than the older system Deepin used to run on, so it's the future direction for the distro. The problem is, when something switches to a brand new engine, it usually needs some time to mature, so that's exactly what this update focuses on. The Deepin team says they fixed over 20 separate issues related to Treeland stability and how you interact with it day to day. 20 fixes, that's a solid chunk of polish for one release. But it's not just bug fixes. Treeland now also supports a bunch of core desktop features that it was missing before. We're talking about things like input devices, so your mouse, keyboard, touchpad settings, display settings, personalization options like themes and wallpapers, and power management, which is basically your battery and sleep settings. Before this update, some of these things might not have fully worked yet under Treeland. Now they do. So basically using Deepin with Treeland turned on should now feel like a complete, fully featured desktop, not a preview or a beta test. Next up, let's talk about files, because, let's be honest, this is something every single person uses, whether you're a Linux beginner or a 20-year veteran. You've got documents, photos, downloads, project folders, you need to find that stuff quickly, right? So Deepin added a new feature called File Indexing Configuration. Now, indexing basically means the system builds a little internal map of where all your files are and what's inside them, so that when you search, it doesn't have to scan your entire hard drive every single time. It just checks the map. That's why apps like this can find the file in a half a second instead of 30 seconds. The cool part is now you get to control that indexing yourself. Why does that matter? Well, indexing everything all the time uses some system resources, a bit of CPU, a bit of disk activity in the background. If you've got an older laptop or you just don't need lightning fast search all the time, you can dial that back. If you want the fastest search possible and don't mind the background resource usage, you can crank it up. Basically, Deepin is giving you the choice instead of forcing one setting on everyone. And here's a genuinely neat one: image content search. This lets you search for picture based on text that's actually inside the image. So let's say you've got a screenshot of an error message or a photo of a receipt or a scanned document. You can now search for a word that appears in that image and Deepin will find it for you. That's a pretty modern feature, honestly the kind of thing you'd expect from a much bigger, more established operating system. On top of that, they improved global search, meaning search that covers your whole system, not just one folder, as well as shared access, so working with shared drivers or shared folders on a network is smoother, and external storage, meaning USB drives and external hard disks. Altogether, finding and managing your files should just feel faster and less frustrating now. Hey, real quick before we keep going. If you're finding this breakdown useful, do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button and tap the bell icon too, so you actually get notified when new videos drop. YouTube doesn't always show you everything from channels you've subscribed to, so the bell genuinely helps. It costs you nothing and it helps this channel keep growing so you can keep making more of these beginner-friendly Linux breakdowns. I also just want to take a second to say a proper thank you to every single one of our channel members. You guys are the ones who really keep this channel running behind the scenes, and I don't say it enough. So thank you. Seriously, it means a lot. Okay, let's jump back into the update. Now let's talk about DDE itself. That's the Deepin desktop environment, basically the actual look and feel of the system. Your taskbar, your app launcher, your notifications, all of that visual and interactive layer you touch constantly. The taskbar icon split mode. Now this one is actually really practical. If you've got multiple windows open from the same app, say 5 different file manager windows or several browser windows, split mode can now show each individual window as its own separate icon on the taskbar. Why does that matter? Because it makes it way easier to tell your windows apart and jump straight to the one you want, instead of hovering over one group icon and hunting through a little preview list. Next, display settings now include something called cross-screen splicing mode. In simple terms, this is for people running multiple monitors who want their screen to behave like one big continuous display rather than several separate ones. It's especially handy if you're doing creative work, coding, or just like having a huge amount of desktop space to spread out across. There is also a new intelligent mirror source selection in the update settings. Let me explain. A mirror is basically a server that hosts a copy of Deepin software so you can download updates. Different mirrors are located in different places around the world, and some will be faster for you depending on where you live. Instead of you manually picking one and hoping it's fast, Deepin can now automatically figure out which mirror is going to give you the best download speed. Less guessing, faster updates, simple as that. And beyond those bigger items, Deepin also polished a bunch of the everyday stuff. Notifications, networking settings, the app launcher, and the taskbar in general. These are the kind of changes that don't necessarily make headlines, but you'll genuinely feel them every time you use your desktop. Now let's talk about something a little more under the hood, the kernel. If you're brand new to Linux, the kernel is basically the core of the entire operating system. It's the part that talks directly to your hardware, your CPU, your graphics card, your Wi-Fi card, all of it. Everything else in the operating system sits on top of the kernel. Deepin 25.2.0 updates both the 6.6 and 6.18 kernel branches. Having two branches available means you can pick between a more stable, long-tested version or a newer one that supports the latest hardware, which is great if you just bought a brand new laptop or a graphics card and need up-to-date driver support. This update also improves compatibility with newer hardware overall, boosts performance, and strengthens security. And they didn't stop there, they also synced up updates to several other core components. Qt6, which is the toolkit a lot of Deepin's own apps are actually built with. Pipewire, which handles your audio and video streams. Initrams, a small system that helps your computer boot up properly, and some virtualization components for anyone running virtual machines. Plus, multiple security fixes were rolled in as well. None of this is flashy, but is the kind of foundational work that keeps the whole system solid and safe underneath everything you actually see and click on. Last but not least, let's talk apps, because a desktop is only as good as the apps you actually use it on every day. Deepin updated a genuinely long list of its built-in apps here. Terminal, Archive Manager, Mail, Image Viewer, Album, Music, Movie, Camera, Phone Manager, the Screenshot and Screen Recording tool, Log Viewer, the Input Method Configuration tool, and even Voice Notepad. That's a huge portion of the apps you'd use on a normal day. Across all of this, the team fixed a bunch of display glitches, interaction quirks, compatibility problems, and general stability issues. So even if you're not chasing some brand new features, changes are your everyday experience. Opening the terminal, taking a screenshot, listening to music, checking your email is just going to feel a little more solid, a little less buggy after this update. So that's Deepin 25.2.0 in a nutshell. A big focus on Treeland maturing into a fully capable desktop engine, smarter and more flexible file search, a more refined DDE experience, a stronger and more secure kernel foundation, and a long list of app-level polish on top of all that. If you're already running Deepin, this is a genuinely worthwhile update to grab, and if you've never tried Deepin before, this might be a great time to give it a shot. It's one of the most visually impressive Linux distros out there, and it just got noticeably more stable. If this video helped you understand what's new, drop a like, it really helps the channel out, and let me know down in the comments, are you team Deepin or are you rocking a different distro these days? I'd love to hear it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.